Hey everyone, happy Thanksgiving or happy Harvest Day. I usually don't say happy Turkey Day since the time when my son saw the turkey go into the oven when he was 5 years old and then decided to become a vegetarian, which was not easy for me since I am not a vegetarian. Welcome back to Unscripted. And if you're new to the show, we're so psyched you've joined us. You're listening to the 26th episode. I'm your host, Nell Daly, psychotherapist, author, TV commentator, journalist, and mother. So you guys know that I love books, and one of the best accounts I've ever read of Thanksgiving was in this book called The Mayflower by a wonderful Nantucket writer named Nathaniel Philbrook. He's also the writer who brought us In the Heart of the Sea. So I'm just tossing it out there to you if you're interested for a little bit more information on sort of the history and what I think was a little bit more of a true account of what happened on Thanksgiving. It's a book really about the French and Indian War, and it's fabulous. So there's a little book rec right at the beginning of the show. Before I start, I want you to press pause and come and hang out with me on Facebook at Nell Gibbon Daily and on Instagram at Nell Daily, which means you'll have to follow or like us. We are building a really cool tribe over there, and it's also a place where you can give us feedback, which I love. So reach out and let us know what you think of the show. Emails are welcome at Nell@thedaily, and that's THEDALY.com. And we're always looking for great brands to work with that feel aligned with our purpose of the podcast. So if you're interested, and especially if you're an online retailer, really, that's a great fit for us. Looking to boost your presence online, hit us up, or you can email Michael at The Daily, and he'll give you all the details. Unscripted is so excited to be sponsored by Elm, which is Essential Living magazine. The Elm publication provides cutting-edge, timely information on natural health, wellness, green living, nutrition, fitness, spirituality, and organic products, all local to the area where the magazine is produced. You can now license an Elm magazine in your own community, which will contain holistic content local to your area. Elm publishers are a unique group of people who are leading the conversation and changing the way people think about healthcare, wellness, green living, and organic products and foods. For more information, please contact Dr. Diane Hayden at diane@naturalnutmeg.com, or you can call them at 860-508-0894. In Connecticut, many of you might know them as the Natural Nutmeg. They are also published in Maine, and they are looking to partner with like-minded individuals all across the United States. So radio and now podcasts are wonderful, not only for the information they bring to us, but they are also on lonely nights a soft voice in the dark. As many of you know who follow me, I just spent a week training in Santa Cruz, California at this place called 1440 Multi-University under a teacher named Frances Weller. It was one of the most transformative therapeutic experiences of my life, and at another time, sooner rather than later, I'll totally fill you guys in as to why. But here's one thing that struck me as I was sitting in a classroom with 36 strangers at the beginning of the weekend. So many people in this world are really isolated, and that includes me too. For those of you who don't know me personally, I really don't have much family. This can make the holidays particularly painful, especially when you feel like you have to shoulder them alone, or you are alone. And sometimes that deep feeling of isolation can strike us even when we're with other people. Sometimes that's when our loneliness is actually most intense. So I wanted to take a moment right now, before I begin the show, and honor those who are alone or feel lonely today on Thanksgiving. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. You are not. I see you. I see you. And I'll be thinking about you all day today. Perhaps today you're in the throes of grief. Perhaps this is your first holiday without someone you loved for many years. Perhaps someone is missing at the table who used to sit across from you and laugh, or like one of my aunts, cause a little trouble by insisting we have interesting conversation, which obviously meant that we were going to talk about God and politics. I know many people who have lost loved ones this year. We all do, as we play back the last few painful months in American history. There was Vegas and the shootings in Sutherland, the hurricanes, the New York City terrorist attack, and the fires in California. Without being overly dramatic or too sentimental, I want to give you a few anecdotes to help you ease, perhaps even just for one breath, your sorrow or that, how should I say it, persistent ache that resides in your chest that's caused by a deep longing for what was once there. Number one, reach out. Even if it's just an email to me tonight, reach out. We need to build, let's call it a movement of hope. And that happens so much more easily when we surround ourselves with community, with people who together feel like they can make a difference. All of this is to say, without sounding too cheesy, find your tribe. And if you can't find one or don't know where to start or where you belong, come and find me. I will be your tribe. Number two, listen. Listen to the voice in the dark. Binge on all the wonderful content that's out there. It helps you pass the time. Podcasts and books and audio shows, they up your curiosity, which makes you feel better. There's so much wonderful art out there, and art is really a balm for a soul that is hurting. Number three, I want you to create. Be creative. Creative lifts depression. Action is the enemy of thought. Dig in. If you don't know where to start with this book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. That's one that's always on my desk, and it's sitting alongside another book by Dr. James Pennebaker, who wrote some seminal texts on the benefits of journaling. He wrote Opening Up and Writing to Heal. Number four, go back onto my Instagram account and look for some of the book suggestions, especially I would say the one by Pema Trojan, which is When Things Fall Apart. They will provide a light in the dark from people who have been there as well. We are all connected through our experience of sorrow because we all face loss on a daily basis. As my teacher Frances Weller says, it's the solitary journey we don't have to do alone. Tomorrow, we will begin again. And my intention with these podcasts is to provide information and inspiration, but also connection and intimacy and some level of comfort that you and I are tethered, and that God or the universe, whatever that looks like to you, has our collective back. Okay, on to some other juicy stuff. We have the most perfect Thanksgiving Day show for you, and I feel so good about this one. The woman you're about to hear from isn't famous. She's not a best-selling author or an A-list celebrity. She's just an everyday person, and I'm putting the everyday person in quotes here. No one is everyday in my book. But anyway, you know what I mean. She is the girl next door doing something extraordinary with her life. She has a great story, and on a day when we're supposed to take a moment out of our busy lives to be with family and to be grateful and maybe, just maybe, give back, I'm grateful for my next guest. She is a light, and you're going to hear the energy in her voice. It's contagious. So when a friend of mine told me to interview this woman named T-Love, literally her name's T-Love, I simply said yes because this friend is incredible, so I would basically do whatever she said. You're going to see what happens next. Without further ado, T-Love. And should I call you T Love? Is that what I should
No,
call
my
you?
first name is T. My first name is T. My last name is Love, so you can just call me T.
Okay. So can we start there? Can we start
Sure.
with your name T Love? Like,
Uh-huh.
how did you get the name T Love? What's up with that? Tell me.
What's up with that?
Yeah, what's up with that? Because were you like, did your parents name you T?
My name is T. My legal name is T. No period, no explanation points, or
That's fascinating.
punctuation. And I married the love part.
No way.
Yeah, so people always want to call me T Love, and so I'll say to somebody, they'll say, "Hi, T Love," and I'll say, "Hi, Mary Smith," and they'll be like, "Why are you calling me by my first and last name?" And I'll say, "Because you're calling me by my first and last name." And yeah, I've gotten all kinds of queries on that.
Because when I looked it up, she said, you have to interview this woman named T Love. So I said, all right. And I looked up. I expected to see a black rapper. I thought that's what we're gonna be looking at, T Love. And there's a rock band called T Love, but they're from Poland.
I know. Yes, I could not get the Facebook page or what was it or Twitter because and they wouldn't. I tried to get on Facebook years ago and they wouldn't let me. And they said, "No, you have to have a real name." I said, "This is my real name," and they wouldn't believe it. And I said, "Okay, fine." And then when someone did it for me, they got on with the Children's Foundation. They said, "There's a T Love rock band." I said, "Yeah, I know. I've been to Poland and I'm quite familiar with the fact that's true."
Mm-hmm. This is so annoying. You must get these questions all the time about your name.
I do, but I don't worry about it because, who cares? It's just a name,
Does it, what was the thinking? It's so predestined. That to me is a name that just proves that there's something greater than ourselves out there.
Well, the funny part is when I was in high school, I went to school with a girl whose last name was Love, and she had a couple of sisters. And I said, "Oh, I just love your last name. I just love it." And she goes, "Yeah, well, maybe someday you'll marry it. It drives me crazy." And I said, "Oh, well, I think it would be fun." And then the next thing you know, I did marry the name Love, and no relationship to anybody in the United States because he's right off the boat from Scotland. So,
is that even a popular name in Scotland? I don't know many Loves from Scotland.
If you Google the name Ian Love, my husband is a consultant, and when he was working in, I think it was either Arizona or New Mexico, I can't remember where, he's working at some hospital, and there was a doctor, Ian Love. And then Paige, Ian Love, pick up the phone, and he'd be like, "Is it me or is it the doctor?" And I'm like, "It's never going to be you. It's a hospital. It's never going to be you."
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot, and it's a Scottish name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what were your parents? What were their ethnicity?
My parents, let's see. Well, I'm Heinz 57, so let's see. I'm Polish. I'm Irish. I'm Nova Scotia-ish.
You're New Jersey-ish now.
No, well, now, but no, I'll never be New Jersey-ish. I am from New England, and I am a New England girl, and New Jersey is very foreign to me still, even though I've been here for quite a few years. I never thought I'd stay here this long. But
isn't that funny? We're so snobby coming from New England about Jersey. I always say you can take the girl out of Connecticut, but you can't take the Connecticut out of the girl.
Yeah,
it's terrible. Terrible quality, actually.
I don't think so. I think it's good to peel your roots.
Yeah. Well, I think it's terrible that I feel kind of snobby about it. Like I'm a little, I have that in me, just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's snobby. I think it's just knowing where you're from and saying, "No, I'm never going to be a California girl. I'm never going to be from Texas. I'm never going to be a Florida person or a Midwesterner. I'm New England through and through."
Yeah.
And people notice it. They notice an accent, and then they'll say, "You're from Boston." As soon as I say, "Oh yeah, that's just wicked good," and they'll be like, "You're from Boston," and I'll say, "Yes, I am."
So that's where you grew up.
Yes.
And why did they name you T? Did they just forget to fill out the rest? Like, what happened?
Well, the vowels are freakishly expensive, as you can see on TV. So, there just wasn't a lot of funding. And we'll leave it at that.
Like they just thought we just didn't do it T. We're just gonna.
We don't have money for vowels, so they didn't buy any. At $250 a pop, I don't blame them, and so I don't add anything to it. I just go with the flow. It's just easier that way.
Do you have siblings? What are their first names?
Well, they have normal names.
They do. They had normal names.
Yes.
And did you ask mom and dad about this growing up? Were you like, why is my
She love my name so much.
It's
Oh
I
my
just
God.
I love it. I think it's totally fascinating.
It's just my name.
Well, I think it's really fascinating because in part what you decided to do then with your life is outside the norm.
There's no question that when I was walking down the aisle, I knew I was marrying more than just a name. I mean, I remember that thought coming to me saying, I'm not just getting a name change here. There's something more to this. I don't know what it is, but I know that there's something that I'm going to be doing with this name simply because of what happened in high school when that girl said, well, maybe you'll marry somebody with that name. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, right. I just thought it was cool. And then I did. So, I think everything that we do in our life leads us to where we are now. And you can go back and look at that, but you can never look forward and see where is this leading me. And, things just happened. Even this book, even this foundation, it just happened. It was never in my scope of things to do or on my radar to start a children's foundation. Never, ever, ever did I think I would do that. And then I did.
And what do the ideas come to you? Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So tell me about your spiritual journey. I mean, if you didn't sort of intuit this through it was through people telling you, I think these things are going to happen maybe.
Well,
How did it come about? Like how did you evolve spiritually to be doing what you're doing now? Because you live a very spiritual life now.
yes, yes. And I kind of always have. But the way the foundation started, I mean, I was watching I was baking Toll House cookies, which are from Massachusetts, Whitman, Massachusetts, by the way. Got to get that in. And I was baking Toll House cookies in December of 2000 and let me get this right, 2014. And a commercial came on.
Now, were you
And
already a Reiki practitioner and doing healing
yes,
energy work at that point?
yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. I'd
Okay.
already been doing all of that and sound therapy. And so I just had the TV on basically for background noise. And a commercial came up. And for some reason, I stopped and looked up and watched the commercial. And it was a commercial for Walmart about two little girls. And one little girl's on a bus. And she gets off the bus and goes home. And she and her mother go to a grocery store, buy food, and drop it off at a food bank. And the other little girl on the bus, gets off, and she goes home, and there's nothing to eat in the house. And so she and her mother go to the food bank and pick up food. Then they flash forward to the next scene, and it's the first little girl who went to the grocery store on the bus looking for her friend, and her friend happens to be that other little girl, and she gets on the bus and sits with her. Neither one of them knew what was going on in the other's house.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it struck me. And I thought, okay, all right. So I continued to bake cookies. And that commercial must have come on like 5 times. And each time I watched it, and each time it did something to me. And I didn't know what it was. And I thought, all right, fine. I finished what I was doing. And life went on until May of 2016. So, about 5 months later, I went to a luncheon where these 3 women who started an area food bank were being honored. And they told a story about a little girl who went in with her dad. And the woman said to her, oh, are you bored? Do you want to go home? And she said, no, the other woman told us before we left we could get some food. We haven't eaten in 2 days. And I sat at that table looking at the undercooked chicken that I was served that I didn't eat or anything else on my plate.
Mm.
I looked around and there wasn't a dry eye in that room. And I thought, oh my God, I paid $65 for this and I'm not eating it. If I want to, I can go to the grocery store and buy M&Ms and they are not in a food group. And all this information was going through my head. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. Well, the next day, the post office was doing a drive. So I went to the grocery store when it opened at 6 and I bought some stuff and brought it home. And my husband started unpacking it. And I said, that's not for you.
Mm.
And I gave it to the postal worker. And I felt pretty good about that. I thought, oh, I did something, big deal. And then I called the food pantry and said I would like to set up a recurring payment because it didn't feel like enough. So I set up this recurring payment and I thought, well, now I've done more and that feels good. But then throughout the remainder of the year, until probably August or September, I started seeing things that I can't even remember. I just started seeing things and I noticed them more and more and more. And then in late October, it was right
And
around
when you say
Halloween.
seeing things, meaning examples of human suffering.
Yeah,
Mm.
in my area that I didn't see before because we don't see it in our area. I can go to Manhattan and I see a lot, and I come home and I don't see it because I'm just going to the grocery store. I'm going wherever I need to go.
And you
And
live in suburban New Jersey.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, the bears live here. I mean, they walk through my yard all the time. It's very, you know,
Rural. It's a
yeah,
rural part of New Jersey,
it's
right?
very out there.
Yeah.
So we're in God's country, you know? And
Mm.
so I started, I realized, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'm starting to take notes and I'm writing notes. And I'm like, what are these notes? What does this mean? What is going on? And by the end of the year, I thought, I need to start a children's foundation. This is what I need to do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I would talk to myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you out of your mind? And so I said to my husband, we need to do this. We don't have children. We need to leave a legacy. Let's do this. And he said, all right, fine, go ahead, do whatever you want. I said, okay. And the next thing you know, I was sitting in a conference room in a law office talking to this gentleman I know who's an attorney. And I'm like, Angela, will you help me become a 501c3? And he said, sure. And he goes, T, it takes like 6 months to a year. And I said, yeah, okay. That's all right. That gives me time to figure out what I'm doing because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just here asking this question. And he said, all right. Well, 55 days later, I get the letter from the IRS that says, hey, you're a bona fide 501c3. So I
Wow.
call Angelo and I said, hey, Angelo, I got this letter. And he goes, no, you didn't. I said, yes, I did. I'll fax it, email it to you. So I scanned it and emailed it to him. And he says, oh, yeah. He says, that's not normal. I said, none of this is normal. None of
Yeah.
this is normal. Now, at the same time, in January of that year, after I met with him,
So
I realized,
This is January 2017, so almost a year ago now.
no, it's January 2016.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. So and it was I went to him and then I sat down like a few days later and there was an event. I'm the secretary of the Chamber of Commerce in my area, so we had this annual dinner and I'm getting ready to go and I've got like 30 minutes and I thought, oh, what am I going to do for the next 30 minutes? Because I can't not ever have nothing to do. And I've got rollers in my hair, no makeup on. I got to throw on an evening gown and go. And I'm thinking, all right, maybe I should type up something about Soji Huggles because nobody's going to know what is that word? What does that mean? What is it? So I sat at my computer and all I did is I said, okay, where do I begin? And then when I looked at the clock, 47 minutes had gone by and I was typing the words the end. And I thought, what is that?
Wow.
So I said, no, I'm 17 minutes late. So I went to the event, came home, next day went to yoga, came back and said, oh yeah, I got to read that thing. And I read it and that's the book, Santa's Tiniest Elves.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is because people say to me, you wrote this book? And I'm like, nah, I really don't think I did. I really think I was like taking dictation for the universe. I'm not so sure I wrote this book. I mean, who does that? That's crazy.
Tell me about the book.
The book is a story. It isn't about the foundation, but it has a great message because it's a current day view of Christmas, bringing it back to its most elemental meaning, reminding readers of the true spirit of Christmas. And it's a universal message of love and kindness. And each of these elves, each of Santa's elves are assigned a special job at the North Pole, but his tiniest elves were so small that he didn't think that they could do anything because, they're tiny, they'd get in the way, nobody would see them and all that. But then one day, as he watched them float around Aurora Borealis Mountain, he realized that the job that they're meant to do was a very, very important job for the entire world. And it's to go around the world and spread love and joy all year round to everyone, to teach people kindness. So it has it's a spiritual book per se without being blatantly spiritual. And it's got, it's a good lesson for children. And actually, the name Soji Huggles there's an Irish custom that Santa drops an elf off at everyone's house on November 30th and picks the elf up on Christmas Eve. And the elf's job is to manage the kids' wish list. So when a child is bad, in preferential order, when they're naughty, they take the first gift they want off the list. And, I think my mother did this for us so that we would be well behaved during December.
Right. We have like we can buy Elf on the Shelf. We all
right.
buy, yes.
She was the first elf on the shelf and we used to tell her all the time, you need to write a book and do this. And she never did. So she came up with the name Soji Huggles. And so in this whole process of writing things down in the middle of the night, I was like, children's organization, Christmas is huge to me. I'm passionate about it. There's, I'm like a crazy Christmas person. I think I'll name it Soji Huggles Children's Foundation. So in meeting with my advisory board, we came up with, one woman in particular said, we should make it an acronym. And I said, yeah, you go ahead and do that. And I started laughing because it's a long word. She came back with some words, and then we worked it out together. And so Soji Huggles actually is an acronym for sharing our joy intentionally, helping us grow gratitude, love, empathy, selflessness.
Wow.
So that, and that just doesn't happen either. It was too easy. It's like, you're in flow and you're doing the right thing when everything just lines up perfectly. And this seems to have done that. So our foundation is very different from a lot of others. We are a 501c3. However, 100% of every donation and 100% of the purchase of everything we sell, except for this book, goes directly to children in need. So this book, because I was told by somebody, you can't do that. You have to do 20% directly to kids in need, and the other 80% you can do whatever you want with. So the other 80% will be used to fund what we need so that we can continue to say 100% of the purchase price or donations goes directly to children in need.
So you can't use 100% of the book proceeds for legal reasons to go back to the foundation, but you can take 80% of it and 20% goes directly and then 80% goes to getting the message out.
Yeah, 80% goes to, let's say I need to buy product to sell it at the German Christmas market. It will go to that. And then when we sell things at the German Christmas market, we don't just use the profit for the kids in needs. It's the whole thing. It's the entire purchase price. Right. So basically, this book is passive income. It's for the foundation. Everyone's a volunteer. There are no salaries, no stipends, no compensation of any kind to anyone. So it's unique in that way, and we want to continue to be able to say that.
And how did you publish the children's book?
I self-published. I had to because, everybody asks, have you written for Huffington Post? No, I have not. I did not even write this book. I'm like, and when I was talking to Dia, she said, don't tell people that. I'm like, oh, okay.
No, but that's the beauty of your story. It's so authentic. And I think that I was thinking a lot about that this morning, actually, that so many women come to me and they say, I want to do this thing, but I don't even know where to start. And you just start.
Yes.
And don't let anything hold you back. Just go for it. And you can't let one know or someone say your social media platform isn't big enough to stop you from just getting it going. And that's what you did. It's
so true because when people say, and then what happened? I'll say, I don't know. I cannot answer this question. I really cannot answer this question because I just found myself in a conference room in an attorney's office saying, help me. He did. And then it was like skiing down a ski slope and not knowing how. I just was going and it worked out. And the funny part is I had a plan after it started to work out. I said, well, after 2 years, the first year, we'll make sure that we cover children's lunches because the way the government provides lunches for children in need is up to a certain amount, those children get a free lunch. That's great. We're not worried about those kids because they have a free lunch right now. We will worry about them when they graduate into poverty. And they will graduate there because as soon as the parents make too much money, they'll be in a place where the lunch isn't free and now they have to pay for lunch. And so that goes for, it's a discounted lunch rate. And then when the parents make too much money, they go from that discounted rate to the full-fledged amount. So I said, we're erasing that line that says this is the discounted rate, and I'm going to deal with nurses, guidance counselors, instructional coaches at the schools. They're on the front line, and we'll deal with them. So the first year we said, we'll do lunch programs. And we did really well. That was the end of 2016. Then I thought, well, okay, I'd like to do a vision program because if you can't see, you can't read. If you can't read, you won't learn. If you don't learn, well, a lot of things can happen. You drop out, you can become an addict, so many things because you don't have an education. So I thought, no, education's important. Let's do that. So we started to set up a vision program. And then, bam, we had a vision program. One of the nurses called and said, do you do hearing aids? And I said, yeah, I think we can do hearing aids. So I reached out, and now we have a full-fledged hearing aid program. Another nurse reached out and said, how about EpiPens? Can you do EpiPens? I said, sure, we can do EpiPens. I'm like, oh, my God.
And is this all with the local school district that you live?
The community, yes, the county. It's in the county. We're starting in the county. And my attorney said to me, will you get bigger and go elsewhere? I said, sure, we're starting in the county, and then we'll go elsewhere. He said, will you do international? And I started to laugh, and I said, sure, we'll do international. When every kid in this country is fed, has a vision program, has health care completely, yeah, we'll do that, and they're clothed and they're not poor anymore. I'll be dead, but it's okay. We'll make sure we make that mandate that we can do worldwide. But right now, charity begins at home. So let's start smaller and get bigger. And the amazing thing is, I had a 5-year plan for, like hearing aids and EpiPens and then dental. And right now, we have a fully established vision program, hearing aid program, EpiPen program. I'm working on a dental program that looks like it will be in place by the end of this year. Things are happening very quickly. And we're providing coats and toiletry kits, and we've done 10,000 school lunches. And, that's a lot. We have a lot that's going on. And it just is in flow. It's just going. It's just working.
And you have volunteers who help you do this. And then how are people writing out checks to the foundation to help support it financially?
Yes, we've had a drive. We had a drive recently where we did a matching contribution program. I had a gentleman who was a guest on my radio show. After the show, he said, "I'll give you $5,000. Try to match it." And I said, "Okay." So we did. And then someone heard about that and also provided. And, there's a lot that we're doing. We do a pumpkin illumination right around Halloween. So people drop off pumpkins that are carved. We put in a battery operated candle, and they come back at night and they look at all the illuminated pumpkins that we have. And that's been successful. So this was our second year. We are part of the German Christmas market, the Lake Mohawk German Christmas market in Sparta, New Jersey, which is the largest in New Jersey. And I believe it's the third largest on the East Coast. So we're part of that. And we have a hut and sell product there that people make, some of the things they make and some things that I have gone out and purchased and brought back. And then all the total purchase price goes to the kids, total purchase price. And I think people really like that because they know, even through all the hurricanes and everything, when you're giving money, how much of it is really getting to those people? People don't know that. So with this, they are aware and they know, and they'll ask questions and I'll explain to them how it works.
T, I got quite emotional when you started talking about helping the children here in America. That's really going to choke me up. As a single mother, you hear, I'm a single mom and I have 3 kids, and 60%, I don't know the exact statistic, so please forgive me for this, but I think 60% of single moms in the United States live below the poverty line.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
And then you have to think about all the children of those mothers living below the poverty line.
Right. There's a lot. It's incredible.
That's really frightening to me.
Yeah, it is. And it's not getting better. And the government lines, I just tell the school districts, I'm not interested in the government line. If the kids are paying 40 cents for a lunch right now, and mom and dad together or singly, whatever, make over, and I'm just throwing a number out there, I don't know the number, make over $40,000. Let's say they get a raise of $2,000 a year. That $2,000 a year takes that kid out of the 40 cent a lunch per day program, which is $2 a week, and brings them up to the $15 a week program. They don't have $15 a week. That wasn't a magic number. I don't know who's doing the math, but that's not new math. That's not how it works, where $2,000 can pay for these kids. If you have 1 kid, it's 15, 2 kids, 30, 3 kids, 45. They don't have that money. They do not. We have children in the area who and families who are living, they're sneaking into people's garages in the cold of winter. They sleep in dumpsters or empty buildings, and empty buildings sometimes are much colder than outside. It's like a freezer. So I'm seeing all this and I'm realizing something needs to be done. Something needs to be done in a big way. So I'm trying to go with my nonprofit in a way where these kids will get more and be healthier, and try to help them so they have the education and they can do better and get them out of the car they're living in. I get phone calls sometimes in the middle of the night that says, "Do you have a blanket? Can you drop it off at the Quick Check?" It's 2:00 in the morning. It's like, yep. I always keep 1 brand new blanket in my house for that phone call, because the first time they called me, I didn't have a brand new blanket. And they said, "Bring one off your bed." And I said, "No, that's gross. I'm not doing that. That's just not right. That's so many kinds of wrong." I mean, these people don't know me. They don't know if there's bed bugs or what. I'm not doing that. And they deserve to have a new blanket. So I ran around the house and then I found one and said, "Oh, thank you, God. There's a new blanket." I don't know where it came from, but there it was. Dropped it off, and always keep one in my house for that phone call, because you just don't know. We don't realize what's going on in the neighbor's house across the street. We have no idea. And that's really sad. People need to be more compassionate, more kind, more understanding. You go to places like Walmart and people are working there, and that might be their job. And their job is minimum wage, and they're barely making ends meet, if they're making ends meet at all. Their home may be right in the parking lot, and they go pick up the kids, and that's where they live at night. And where do they get food? We live in the greatest country on earth, the greatest country on earth. And yet, you know, uh, our most precious natural resource, our children, the disparity between our country's wealth and the condition of its children is unparalleled. So many don't have the basic necessities of food, shelter, clothing, and we're here to change that. So we want to give kids a fair shot. We really, truly believe that we are investing in a brighter tomorrow by giving them a better today.
How do people reach you? How do people reach your foundation?
They can go to sojihuggles.org.
So can you spell that? Yes.
Yes. It's S as in Sam, O, J as in John, I, H as in Harry, U, G, G, L, ES.org. They can check it out there. We're on Facebook, Soji Huggles Children's Foundation. I do not take care of my social media because I don't have time, so somebody does that for me, so I trust that it's still up and running.
Yeah, because there's just a couple questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
Have you felt a renewed sense of, I mean, we're doing this interview the day after the shootings in Texas that we saw, Sutherland, Texas.
Yep.
And when you see something like that on the news and you're doing all this work to try to heal your community and help people, what's your sense of it, and how do you keep going, and how do you not fall into despair? Or does this allow you to say, okay, I know this is happening, but I'm channeling all of that grief into something positive?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I look at that and say, again, we do not learn. We have not learned. We have learned nothing. And we continue to not learn. I'm like, no, this has to change. So it gives you the drive to do more. It gives you the motivation and the inspiration to, you know what? This crap has to stop.
And when you say we have not learned, what do you mean by that?
This country. I mean, okay, let's take Scotland. Years ago, I think it was the end of the 90s, they had a major shooting at a school. It was similar to Newtown, Connecticut. After that, they changed their laws, and they haven't had one shooting like that since in their country. Why are we over here looking at this saying we don't know what to do? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go to Scotland and say, hey, what did you guys do? We want to do it. We want to do that so that we don't have these senseless killings. I mean, people will say, but it's our constitutional right. The constitutional right is people to own guns for an organized militia. My neighbor is not part of an organized militia, okay? So stop reading that wrong, and let's get cracking here and do something about this, because there's so many problems. Innocent people shouldn't be dying. So that, what it does to me, it says, oh my God, I can't believe this is still happening. I can't believe it's still happening. I don't know what to do about the gun issue. I really don't, but I do know what to do about the kids who don't have. And I'm able to at least make a dent somewhere so that maybe they will have an education enough so they don't fall into gangs, which can do things like this. So they don't get, they're not on their, on their PCs or on their little magic phones being brainwashed by people from ISIS. There's a lot that goes on. People need to just be more aware of that. Technology is great. It's really great if it's used appropriately. But right now, there's really not a lot about it that's used appropriately. So even when people come to volunteer with me, it's like, you got to shut your phones off. That's not part of the deal. You have to be fully engaged with what's going on here. If you believe in this cause, you have to be fully engaged to help them. And being on your phone is not that. And in my private practice, I deal with people who are completely addicted to technology, and that's horrible. They're on their phones 2.5 hours a day, and they're working. That means they're working for their boss 3.5 days a week, and 1.5 days they're paying them for nothing because they're doing everything. So, I think we need to set an example, and the example needs to be to have compassion and kindness and love, and come from that place of love and cut people slack, because you don't know what they just got today. You don't know what their message is. You have no idea when you're standing in line and the clerk is not in a good mood, what they may have heard. What's going on with their family life. You just don't know. So be as kind as possible. And that's the whole thing about Soji Huggles, is really spread the love and the joy, and be grateful, and have empathy and compassion, and be selfless, and just do that for others, so that maybe that's the changing point for them. Maybe that one thing that you do for somebody today is the only nice thing that's happened to them today, this week, or this month. You don't know.
T, I want to go back also to this question, and I'm not going to ask you to answer questions about policy and gun control, because that's not your wheelhouse.
Right.
But what is your wheelhouse? This Soji Huggles is your second side hustle. your job, and I want the listeners to know this, is actually a Reiki practitioner. You do sound healing. You are a therapist. And so talk to me about mental health in America, because I think that you must have some really profound thoughts about that as well, given what you do.
There's so much that we don't know. We can't. Oh, we have to somehow look at it better, look at children better, spend more time with them instead of ignoring them. They are not little people that you just put, years ago you put a kid in front of a TV set, and that's what started a whole generation of kids watching TV and doing things and getting into craziness when they'd see things on TV that they thought they could do. It's much worse today. Mental health is a huge, huge issue, and there's really no way to test it. To put in the schools, you can do an eye exam, you can do a hearing exam. How do you do a mental health exam without watching those kids and seeing what they're doing and trying to help them? And that's what the teachers on the front lines are doing, the nurses and the instructional coaches. They're trying to see, this kid has an issue. Let's work with this kid and help this kid. It's so hard to figure out what's going on with someone. Sometimes you just don't see it. And unfortunately, that's more prevalent now. Two sets, both parents are working. It's really hard to spend time with the children. I think if people went back to spending time with their children, we live in so much stress right now, and spending time with their family and doing family things. If you think about it, years ago, and I've often said someone should do a research study on this, and no, it's not going to be me, but someone should do a study on what happened when everything was decided that we're going to allow stores to be open on Sunday. And people look at me and say, what's the big deal, T? And it's like, now you're giving people 7 days a week to be stressed. Sunday was the down day. It was a forced down day. The only thing that really was open was a pharmacy until 12 or 1 o'clock. You got sick after that, you weren't allowed to go in and get a prescription because they closed. But everything was closed. It was a forced down day, a family day, and people took it as that. People don't take vacations. They don't take time off. And people will say, well, I took a vacation. Did you take your cell phone with you? Yes, you are not on vacation. If your boss says you have to have your cell phone with you, you're not on vacation. That's not part of the job. People need to slow down. They need to meditate more. They need to be out in nature and spend time with their children. And that's where you start to see that you're grounded and you can react differently to life. But nobody does that. Very few people take time off. Even when they say they're on vacation, they'll say, oh yeah, I answered, my cell phone early in the morning so I could have the rest of the day. You're allowed to have the whole day, the whole week, the whole 2 weeks, whatever you take. My husband's in IT. He doesn't own a magic phone. I don't own a magic phone. I have a flip phone from 2006, so does he. He says we don't need it. And I'm like, that's right, we don't. You really don't need it. People who they've done studies with kids that they took off of cell phones for a week and said, you can't use your cell phone for a week. One girl actually made a cell phone out of cardboard. She said, so I made this pretend cell phone. And I was like, oh my God, that is just horrendous. But at the end of the week, they all said, I just feel better. They felt better after 1 week. So mental health starts with the technology that we have. People are addicted to technology. They won't admit that they are. I work with a lot of people who have internet addiction, and they don't believe it until they start to calculate it and see how much time they're spending. It's good when you use it for good stuff. It's not good when you get addicted to it and you're not using it wisely. I think we need to start there. Little children do not need a phone. They do not need a phone.
T, can you also tell me a little bit more about what the work that you actually do in your private practice, just so people know how to reach you if they want to see you as a practitioner?
Thank you. My practice is called Quantum Wellness Center, and I started out as a Reiki master. It started to change, and I became a reconnective healing therapist, which is very similar to Reiki, but it's stronger. So I use energy therapy to work with people to feel blocks where they are in their energy field. And then I use quartz crystal singing bowls, and I play them in order to release the blocks and to get rid of whatever it is that's going on in their system to initiate healing. Now, this is not to be used in lieu of anything else. And some people say, that's a little too woo-woo. Not really. Hospitals across the country are using Reiki and different modalities of Reiki, but most people are familiar with that. Whether it's quantum touch, healing touch, hands-on healing,
What's the difference between the connective therapy and the Reiki?
It's actually just stronger. First of all, in the Reiki, I did it for like 20 years. You don't need all the symbols that you're taught, and you don't need to be attuned to Reiki. Anybody can do what I do. There's nobody special that attunes people. So if you learn how to connect and allow the energy to flow, you can do what I do, but you have to practice it, and you have to practice it constantly in order to get really good at it and have it come in as strongly and effectively as it does. But it's very beneficial to people. I mean, I have clients from 2 years old up to 90, and it works well for them. I also have doctors who send people to me, and Dr. Mitchell Gaynor, he passed away 2 years ago. He was an oncologist in Manhattan. He had a great big quartz crystal singing bowl in his waiting room. And if you were going to him to have chemo or radiation, it was mandated that you had to have sound therapy with it, or he would not treat you. So he understood that sound therapy was really a huge part of it, and energy therapy was a huge part of it. Dr. Mehmet Oz, his wife is a Reiki master, and he has Reiki masters going into surgical suites with him because he understands it initiates the healing process. So that's the type of work that I do in my practice to help people. And and then there's the positive psychology and energy psychology therapy, which goes into it too. That's the talk part, because finally the American Psychiatric Association has decided that talk therapy is not enough, people. You need energy therapy to go with it. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge breakthrough. So I'm really pleased with that. Mm-hmm. So, it's the whole gamut to help people, mind, body, spirit, the whole thing, so that you heal on every level.
And just because I know people listen to this from all over the world, so I'm not going to make any assumptions here. Reiki therapy is energy. It's basically non-touching, right? Energy work.
Correct.
Would you say that?
Yes, it's universal life force energy. And you've probably seen people do this when you've seen people chanting over water, and you don't have to chant, but if you fully focus, and you have to get to that point of being able to fully focus, if you fully focus and you work on the person, you're shifting their energy within their being, and that initiates healing so that their body can heal, so that they can heal mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And for me, it is hands off. Some people do touch. I do not. I work above.
T, one last question. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in God?
Absolutely. I believe in a higher power. Yes. The God of your understanding. What is the God of your understanding? Everybody has a different one. They call him by different names. I absolutely believe there's a higher power. That higher power is what allows me to do what I do. That higher power has guided me to form Soji Hegel's Children's Foundation, because, as I said, it was never on my radar. That higher power, if you tune in, will guide you in your life.
Have you always believed in it?
Yes.
Even as a child, you had a very strong sense of it.
Yes, I was brought up Catholic, but that part didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
Again, I asked this question because I interview, obviously, I'm a spiritual junkie. I, went down the spiritual rabbit hole, and I love talking to other spiritualists and spiritual gurus and people in this field. But so many of us were raised Catholic. Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
Yeah. And, there's nothing wrong with being Catholic and going to church if an organized thing is what you like to do. For me, I can get a direct line. I don't need to go through somebody else. Any of us can get a direct line. If you just come from that, if you realize we're made of love, we come from love. No matter what the circumstances are of your conception, you come from the source of love. You are indeed love. If you come from your heart and put that forward in every situation, when you're making choices, always come from love, nothing will fail you. And that comes from divine source. And because we're made from that, we are a part of God.
Well, T, you are a fierce, fierce personification of love.
Well, thank you. It's the name.
Thank you so much for listening to Unscripted today, and I hope you all have a safe and happy and healthy Tofu Turkey Harvest Day, Thanksgiving Day, Day of Gratitude. For more episodes of Unscripted, please head over to The Daily, that's THEDALY.com. And as always, may the light in me shine to the light in you. Namaste.